Good morning. Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Camilla Norder, and I am serving as your worship associate this morning. I'm joined by our worship leader, Pam Schumann. We are excited to welcome you to our worship service this morning. We're so glad to have you with us today, whether you're joining us in person or online, whether you're here for the first time or whether you've been here for longer than you can remember. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us. As a community, we also welcome the sharing of joys, sorrows, and concerns. You are welcome to fill out a joys and sorrows slip on the table near the Welcome Center, in the pockets of your chairs, and on the joys and sorrows table here. You are also welcome to light a candle. This can be done at any time before the service or in service from the beginning through the offertory. Before we begin worship, we have a couple of announcements. I encourage you to also read the inserts and the printed announcements in your order of service. You may wish to take these home with you as reminders of the events and activities coming up here at Horizon. Since this is Flower Communion Sunday, if you haven't already put your flower in a vase on the altar, please feel free to do so now. If you don't have a flower to share, just raise your hand and an usher will bring a flower to you. We have flowers for everyone. After the service, you are all invited to our first of the month potluck lunch in the fellowship hall. Members, friends, and visitors, everyone is welcome. You don't need to have brought a dish, and we always have plenty, and we're happy to share. Just head down the long hallway to the kitchen. Gluten-free, vegetarian, and vegan options are also available.
Good morning. I love this day. I'm sorry. This is one of my favorite days of the year. And June is indeed busting out all over, if you could tell from the prelude that Lucas played for us. Thank you, Mr. Rodgers, and thank you, Mr. Hammerstein. Yeah, it's June. It's getting hot. The crepe myrtle trees are bursting into blossom. Yes, another Texas summer is just about upon us. The delicate spring daffodils and tulips have given way to hardier flowers. Like sunflowers, roses. My love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Thank you, Bobby Burns. And of course, dandelions. But 2025 is almost half over. And how are we doing now since January? How are humans always doing? What do we need to be reminded of? The following words were written by William B. Rice for another flower communion service. He says, "The sounds we have been hearing have been discordant. The sights we have been seeing have been violent. The words that we have been reading have been hateful. All of this has been wearying, discouraging, and distracting. In our hearts, we had a dream of love, and in our minds, we had a pattern of community. But this has been a sorry season of discontent, most difficult for visions." Does this strike a familiar note? It was written in 1969. The Vietnam War was raging. Rice continues, "Today is a new day, truly an hour for hope and joy and gladness. Let us be thankful for the persistence of flowers and open ourselves to their long wisdom. Often they grow in spite of terrible winters and miserable summers. Strange beauty greets us in unexpected places, as if there is a particular grace that is stronger than our carelessness or indifference." Something always does seem to be raging in ourselves or in the world. Today, let us remind ourselves, as Rice tells us, of the value of long wisdom, of particular grace, of real flower power on this Flower Communion Sunday. Come, let us worship together.
We light our chalice today, symbol of our free faith, with words from Mary Sarton. Help us to be the always hopeful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness, nothing comes to birth, as without light, nothing flowers. Please join me in our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and projected on the screen. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together.
So for several weeks now, we have been watering our seeds down here. They're not too happy being inside. And so today, we're going to water them for the last time in the sanctuary. It's time for them to leave us and to be transplanted to a better environment for them. They made it from being the seeds we planted at our Earth Day service back in April to tiny plants today for Flower Sunday. Thank you. As we say goodbye, we thank our seeds for being with us as they were able. Many siblings and cousins, and if the ushers would bring back up the siblings and cousins now, put them on the altar table. Many siblings and cousins come in their place today to remind us that beauty is both paradoxically ephemeral and everlasting. If you have any last flowers to go up on the altar, now's the time to put them in. And then we will have our first opening hymn. In just a moment. It's called Liberating Rose, and we will have words up there, but if you'd like to follow along in the gray hymnal, it's number 130. I think we're still collecting. It's just going to get prettier and prettier up here all the time. Thank you so much, ushers. We appreciate it. Okay, Kel, I think we're ready for Oh Liberating Rose. Please stand as you are able. Thank you.
Your beauty helps our hearts everyone. It's so good to see everyone and see all these beautiful, beautiful flowers. My name is Jeanette Bailey, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And this morning I have the pleasure of reading our story for all ages during our time for all ages. But before I start, I'm going to give you a quick reminder that Horizon UU Church partners with MetroCrest Services to help people in need in our area. We also have on the church grounds our little free pantry. You are encouraged each week to bring in donations for both of these services. Please bring shelf-stable food items. Please do not bring anything made of glass. That cannot be accepted. But items can be dropped off in the baskets here that are in front of the pulpit, or in the sanctuary. We are in the sanctuary and in the church lobby. Well, all right, let's have our story. All right, everyone, all these flowers are here today because we are doing our very, very good. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of the flower communion. We have adapted the story from text by April Rosario, which was based on Norbert Chapek and the Flower Communion, and the story The Flower Ceremony, A Plain and Simple Beauty. We are exploring how freedom and the Flower Communion ceremony that we're going to be doing a little later are linked together. With that in mind, and to help us understand this link better, I want to share this brief story about how the Flower Communion, which can also be called the Flower Celebration, came to be. So our story begins in Europe over 100 years ago in a city called Prague, in a country that was then called Czechoslovakia, but now is called the Czech Republic. There was a minister named Norbert Chapek who lived there then. Let's say his last name one more time. Chapek. There we go. And his photo is up there on the screen behind me. Now, it's important to know that Reverend Chapek had not always been a Unitarian. That sounds very familiar. As a child, he was raised in the Catholic faith, but by the time he was a teenager, he found that that faith did not fit him anymore. At the age of 18, he became a Baptist, and he would go on to be ordained as a Baptist minister. As his life went on, Reverend Chapek started having more liberal ideas about religion. He became convinced that the true faith of the Czech people was a free faith, a spiritual practice that valued individual conscience and looked for community life rooted in love. That sounds a lot like us UUs today, doesn't it? But it took quite a while before he could bring his free faith to the people in Prague. In 1914, a war that was called the Great War in its time was about to start across Europe and the world. To make matters worse, Reverend Chapek's government was not happy with his ideas. When a call came to serve Baptist churches in America, first in New York and then in New Jersey, he accepted it. About a year later, Reverend Chapek and his family joined the local Unitarian church. He finally had found a spiritual home, but it had taken him quite a while. He was then 51 years old. That also sounds a little familiar to us. But now back to the Flower Communion. When the Great War ended several years later, Reverend Chapek and his family returned to their home city of Prague, where he found his people exhausted and sad and divided and hopeless after living through 4 hard years of war. Knowing what he did about Unitarianism now, Reverend Chapek thought a Unitarian church could help his people cope with this difficult time. And so he decided to build one. Now, the building did not look like a church at all, nothing like Horizon Church for sure, nor did it have a tall steeple reaching for the sky like some churches do. It did not have massive doors carved of wood or windows of stained glass. It did not have a chalice or a piano or flowers. And it definitely did not have coffee or donuts after the service. No, this church was very plain and simple. It was a basic box shape with 4 walls and a door. It had a ceiling, gratefully, and a floor, a few windows, and some very hard wooden chairs. What it did have, though, were people of all different faith traditions: Protestant, Catholic, Jewish. Reverend Chapek knew that they were the most important part of the church, because without people, a church is just a building. And the people came every Sunday to hear Reverend Chapek speak. They listened quietly, even while sitting on those uncomfortable wooden chairs. It's nice that our chairs are a little more comfortable. When Reverend Chapek finished speaking, the people would just quietly gather their things and go home. There was no music, no candles, no food, no chatting. No freedom to have joy in beloved community. Now, this wasn't because the people didn't like joy. No, it was because the people of Prague had been through terrible times during the war, and it showed on their faces and in their attitudes. Even though the war had ended, many bad feelings still remained, and many had disagreements about the war. Many had lost loved ones or had been hungry or scared. The members of this church were simply stuck in the sad and hopeless feelings that followed the war. And as Reverend Chapek saw this, he wondered what he could do to change it and make things better and more joyful. One Sunday morning just before summer, as Reverend Chapek was walking to church, he stopped to notice that there was joy all around him. He noticed the birds freely singing and the flowers freely blooming. He felt the sunshine on his face, and he thought how beautiful the world is. And just then, an idea came to him that might help his people share in this kind of joy. At the end of his service that day, he asked everyone to bring a flower with them to church the following week. Confused, the people began to ask lots of questions. What kind of flower? What color? What size? He said, "You choose. Each of you is free to choose what you like." And so the next Sunday, June 4th, 1923, the people came with all sorts of flowers. Oh, so many colors, sizes, and kinds. Roses, daisies, sunflowers, wildflowers, reds, pinks, yellows, purples, and white. And just like today at Horizon, the flowers were put on display in containers of water where everyone could see and enjoy them. Reverend Chapek began to speak. And like always, the people listened, sitting quietly on those hard wooden chairs. He pointed to all of the flowers the people had brought. "These flowers are like us," he said. "Different colors, different shapes, different sizes. Each needs different kinds of care, and each is beautiful, important, special, delightful, and free." in its own way. You see, Reverend Chopek wanted to connect the idea of many different flowers grouped together, bringing joy, as a way to represent the different members of his church without excluding or offending those who had left other faith traditions. He then gave a blessing of the flowers, which called for everyone in the room to see one another as family, despite their differences, and to let the spirit of love unite them and help them live more joyfully and more freely themselves. And on that day, when the service ended, the people turned and talked a little bit more among themselves and stayed a bit longer. Children commented on the flowers and giggled, which in turn made the grown-ups laugh. And Reverend Chopek was amazed and happy at the change. His simple idea had worked. Then, as folks started to leave the service, Reverend Chopek invited each person to take a flower home with them, specifically a different flower from the one they had brought, as a gift from their church family and as a reminder of the joy and freedom that can come from being in community. And each year, at the start of the summer, they did it all again and again. And so the flower communion was born, and it continues to this day. Now, as we sing our young folks out to their classes, let's all remember what Reverend Chopek started, a beautiful reminder of how flowers symbolize being free to be different and still free to be together. Thank you.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace, as you go your way in peace.
Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of June is Equity Texas. We will watch a short video about this organization, and then Sandy Steele will come up and give us more information.
The work to protect the rights and freedoms of LGBTQIA+ Texans does not have an off-season. We're all in all the time. Schools across the state are still banning books. Ken Paxton's attacks on trans Texans are steadily escalating, and community events are being targeted with violent threats. Equality Texas is continuing to fight every single day for a future we can all bet on. After fighting over 140 bills targeting queer and trans Texans, we managed to stave off 94% of them. But the 7 bills that ended up passing hit our community hard. So we sounded the alarm and petitioned the UN to intervene.
Equality Texas joined several civil rights organizations writing a new letter to the United Nations. The group alleges human rights violations against LGBTQ+ Texans.
After such a rough year, we needed to check back in with the community. We launched a multi-city campaign to educate the community about our rights post-ledge and how to protect ourselves. After DPS decided to quit updating gender markers, we worked with the Trans Legal Aid Clinic of Texas to answer some of the most pressing questions. But education happens everywhere. Sometimes it's on TikTok or Instagram or on webinars with local celebrities. Sometimes it means turning the Capitol itself into a classroom. In September, we launched our very first Equality Summit, where volunteers were trained on how to give testimony, how to talk to the press, and the basics like where to find the bathrooms in the Capitol. We pride ourselves on making advocacy accessible to everyone, but for those who are willing to dig deeper, our Equality Leaders Program offers 9 months of training that covers a wide range of topics and skills needed to do this work. This will be the 5th year of our program, and this year we have a cohort of 34 people, meaning that we've trained nearly 200 advocates to build power across the state and to speak up at the Capitol. This week, Lauren Ashley Simmons won her election in House District 146 in Houston after ousting incumbent Sean Theory in a bitter and intense primary race.
It's not a surprise tonight, but I'm officially declaring victory.
Theory, who campaigned on being an ally to LGBTQ+ people and the trans community, voted to ban healthcare for trans youth, and we promised justice. We sent nearly 25,000 text messages, nearly 10,000 mail pieces, and personally knocked on over 5,000 doors. And now, we have a queer, Black union organizer in the Texas House of Representatives. Our team, along with our Pride mascot, Bo the Rainbow, made it to 95 Pride events all across Texas. We celebrated our joy in festivals and on panels from Amarillo Corpus and Beaumont to El Paso. Austin Pride this year was particularly special, bittersweet, but special, because it was Ricardo's last as CEO with Equality Texas. Even with a change in leadership, amidst a contentious election year, and while dealing with Ken Paxton's constant and obsessive attacks on our community, one thing has remained constant: our commitment to fighting for justice and freedom in Texas. Everything we do requires commitment and persistence from every department, and we could not have done it without the incomparable work of our staff. Equality Texas is on the front lines of change here in the Lone Star State, and with your support, we can keep building a Texas where we all thrive.
Hi, I'm Sandy Steele, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I want to give you just a few brief comments about 2025. I participated in the Advocacy Day for Equality Texas, where they trained over 1,000 people. It was really a huge event, and it was very fulfilling to see that many people running around the Capitol. But in 2025, Texas lawmakers introduced a record-breaking 207 anti-LGBTQIA bills, surpassing all the previous years and marking the highest number ever recorded in the state. These efforts were aimed at restricting fundamental rights and freedoms of LGBTQIA Texans, affecting areas such as healthcare, education, and personal identity. The harms aren't theoretical. They are daily realities for queer and trans Texans. The good news is that with the help of Equality Texas, advocacy and resources, 194 out of 207 anti-LGBTQIA bills are officially dead. Yay. There are still 2 days left before Senate Day, which is the last day at the legislature. The remaining bills are in conference committees and sitting on the governor's desk, and some may have already been signed by the governor. We don't have a final report as of yet. There are some bad bills, but there are some good news too. I know that the bathroom bill in particular is dead. So I'll be able to report more about that in a future time. There is something else you should know. Over the past year, Equality Texas has seen a noticeable decline in corporate donations, as some companies are retreating from supporting these causes under the political pressure of DEI BS. Excuse me. The responsibility is falling on us, everyday people, to keep this movement alive. And we know there's a lot still in Texas that feel that way. So I hope you'll support this strong partner, a very good partner of ours for justice in Texas. Thank you.
As we now prepare for our offering, let us hear the words of Paul Dalzell. The offering we take each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. It is much a ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, or reciting our unison affirmation. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together, to help our community, and to say yes to the values of our faith. Thank you to our members and friends who give and pledge electronically. If you would like to give electronically, you may do so on the Breeze app or online at horizonuu.org/donate. The offering will now be joyfully given and received, and thank you for your generosity.
Over streamers and plumes and bandanas. All the colors, yes, the colors of people now taking their place in the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun.
I'd like to do a brief introduction to our first reading. It's a poem by the Argentinian poet Baldomero Fernández Moreno. He was a doctor and famous in Argentina. And how do I know this? Well, because in years past, and some of you may remember this, I would read this poem for flower communion with my dear friend Marga, who is Argentinian. She would read the Spanish, and I would read the English. And I don't know that you can read the Spanish. I'm not going to even attempt to do it. I would butcher the Spanish, so I'll read what is my translation of into English of that. But the important thing is that picture up there. Because my translation cannot fully capture the beauty of the language and the emotional impact of Moreno's words, prompted by his astonishment at passing a real building in Buenos Aires similar to the one pictured. And of course I can't find my, but I think I can do it from memory. So he says, 70 balconies are in this house. 70 balconies and not one flower. Do the inhabitants, dear Lord, do they not, what's wrong with them? Do they not like perfume? Do they hate color? The stones are covered with sadness. They make me sad. It's the black balconies are just wistful. What is going on in this building? Is there not a young bride? Is there not a crazy poet who has his dreams and illusions? Is there not anyone who wants to see a miniature garden through their windows? On the white stones, do they not want to see roses climbing? On the black iron, do they not want to see a jasmine flower opening? Oh, these people, they will not like plants, and they will not like birds. They won't like music or poetry or have love. No, they will not savor a kiss, and they will never hear the piano keys playing music. 70 balconies and not one flower. This first reflection I have entitled, "The Opposite of Joy is Hopelessness." That's a quote I read somewhere that put a different slant on the concept of joy. How does this connect to our theme for the month of June, which is living love through the practice of freedom? I'll leave the perhaps more obvious connections to freedom to Reverend Chris, but after mulling it over for several weeks now, I have realized that the joyful flower communion service does have a connection to freedom, but of another kind, one we all know about but need to be reminded of. We need to be reminded of often, especially when times get tough. Times that William Rice from the Call to Worship describes as wearying, discouraging, and distraction, when our dream of love and the pattern of community we expected, what we longed for, were dashed into a sorry season of discontent. So, time for reminder number one. Being human, being alive, means you're going to go through tough times. History has taught us that's life. Riding high one minute, shot down the next. Thank you, Frank Sinatra. It was true in 1969, it was true in the 40s, it was true at any time period you care to mention. That's why we give roses with many thorns on it to our teens in the bridging ceremony that we saw a couple weeks ago. They need to know as they venture out into the world, life isn't always easy or fun. Forewarned is forearmed. As Lynn Anderson tells us, I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden. Along with sunshine, there's gotta be a little rain sometime. Thank you, Lynn. Maybe that's the trouble with poet Moreno's building inhabitants with their bare balconies. Maybe they all have troubles of one kind or another. Illness, grief, broken hearts, loneliness, and they're letting their troubles victimize their joy in life. Chapek's people also had troubles, victims of the ravages of war and discord and alienation. It does seem to be the history of the human race. So many thorns, so little joy. This all reminds me of an ancient story, the one about Pandora's box. For those needing a little memory jog about the story, Pandora was basically the Eve of Greek mythology. She was the first human woman, a creation of the gods. She was lovely, alluring, and curious. Her name even means all gifted. Now, Zeus gave Pandora a lidded jar or box that he expressly warned her not to open. Zeus knew, of course, that she would. That was his plan. Zeus was angry and seeking revenge both on Pandora's brother-in-law Prometheus, who had brought fire to humanity, and on the humans who had received the fire. Pandora's curiosity indeed got the better of her. As she opened the box, all manner of evils and miseries were unleashed onto humankind. Sickness, death, sorrow, hardship, greed, war, all the thorns. Stunned at seeing this, she quickly slammed the box shut, but it was too late. The miseries had all escaped, or had they? Now, when you see miserable events and feelings, whether you see miserable events and feelings as a punishment from a supreme being, or just the natural order of life, or something else altogether, the real question is, how do you cope with them? How do you endure and still have joy in your life? You already know the answer. You just need to be reminded now and then. Now, halfway through 2025, on a warm summer day in June. We will now look at the joys and sorrows. Excuse me a moment. We would take time to honor these joys and sorrows of our community, knowing that we are all interconnected and that what affects one affects us all. We have one here, which is a joy for the start of Pride Month. Queer people are sacred. Our joy and resistance is holy. I also have, I don't know whether to call it joy or a sorrow, but tomorrow I will have surgery, total knee replacement on my right knee. Thank goodness I'm getting it over with finally. So wish me luck. Healing thoughts are appreciated. We also light a candle this morning to honor all the joys and sorrows that have gone unspoken and reside only in our hearts. Our prayer today is from Claire Feingold Thorine. It's called A Bouquet of People. Let us give thanks for a bouquet of people. We give thanks for children. Like tulips and iris, they multiply around us, making the world ever more filled with color, beauty, and new life. May we bless them as they replant themselves even further from us, knowing that they need their own space to grow into. We give thanks for generous friends, as constant in bloom as echinacea, and whose gifts lift up our body and spirit. We give thanks for feisty friends, as indomitable as geraniums, and for continuous friends who, like bittersweet and ivy, hold on and never let go and can never be gotten rid of. For crotchety friends, so prickly as rose bushes, their beauty is a secret it is only discovered through careful gardening. For surprising friends, who at first glance seem dour and then blossom to joy as quickly as forsythia. For funny friends, silly as snapdragons, and serious friends, complex as chrysanthemums. For comfortable friends, their gentle presence as soothing as the sweet smell of lilacs. For stormy weather friends who stand by us in hard times, like lily of the valley that cannot be deterred by shade or shadow. For old friends, nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends coming on as fast as flocks. For friends as unpretentious as dogwood, as persistent as Pachysandra, as steadfast as azalea, and who, like snowdrops, can be counted on to see you through the winter and remind you that spring always comes. For loving friends who wind around us like wisteria and embrace us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, for forget-me-not friends, gone but never forgotten. Their beauty lives on in our memories and hearts. For this bouquet of people who brighten our lives each in their own way, we give thanks. Amen. Rather than have our usual silent meditation this week, we are instead going to have an Ikebana meditation. And you might ask, what is Ikebana to begin with? It's the ancient art of flower arranging. Actually, the words mean the way of the flower. And it was taught to samurai warriors in addition to their warrior training and their tea ceremonies. They were also taught to look at this part of life also. Unlike fast, competitive Western mindsets, Ikebana is done slowly, silently, although we will have some lovely music playing in the background, and it takes years to become a master. I do not claim in any way, shape, or form to be a master of this art. I appreciate the time and effort it takes, and I take some of the concepts and use them, and that's about as far as I can do. But there are deep spiritual connections. The idea is to become one with the heart of the flower. It's like the universal heart. You are basically joining with all the beings of the earth. Any fuss, haste, or impatience only brings discord, and so you don't want it in your surroundings when you're meditating with Ikebana. And you listen to the plants in the storm, and you see how they yield, bending and swaying, how they calmly let everything pass over their heads, and so remain uninjured. So the parts that I'm going to show you today are basically on the principle of three. The most upright is the flower or branch that goes to heaven. The one that goes to the side is man, or mankind, or humankind. And the one that goes lower is earth. So they always include those three elements. And now I will create something along those lines for you. And you can be comfortable and relaxed as you watch and listen. And please remain seated now for our response, which is hymn number 396 in the gray hymnal, I Know This Rose Will Open.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Our second reading is the poem by William Wordsworth, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, also known as Daffodils. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high or vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils.
Okay, reminder number 2, about a freedom you may not know you have, but you do. Everyone does. It's the freedom to experience joy no matter what. They can't take that away from me, as the Gershwin brothers tell us in their song. Thanks, George and Ira. This is a precious and unalienable freedom, whether felt in the moment or recalled from memory to brighten a melancholy or hopeless mood. Romantic poet Wordsworth, who is surprised by the sudden joy of seeing masses of golden daffodils, is also surprised that the vivid memory of that joyful moment can still cause his heart to dance with the daffodils. A boost of joy to be had whenever needed, no prescription needed. Norbert Čapek also knew the benefits of joy in his church in Prague. Poet Moreno was sad that some people were so hopeless they couldn't even put flowers on their balconies. Poet William Blake also speaks of joy in his poem Auguries of Innocence, where he proclaims, "Man was made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. Joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine." However, this freedom to experience joy may seem easier said than done. When you are broken by the vicissitudes of life, you may not feel you can find or sense joy. But it can and probably will sneak up on you. Welcome it. As our DLRE, Director of Lifetime Religious Education, Lauren mentioned several Sundays ago, it can happen as a glimmer of joy. I love that glimmer. Like seeing cheerful bluebonnets along a highway. Oh, I love April for the bluebonnets. Or a sunflower growing in the mounded dirt at a construction site. Blake would say it was like seeing heaven in a wildflower. But the crucial corollary to this reminder is that you use your freedom to seek joy. You really have no choice if you want to make life worth living, and to make it more than just subsisting, to keep hope alive, to love yourself and love others. Joy is immensely healthful for both your physical and mental well-being. Happiness is as important as sleep for the whole body. It's a release of stress and exhilarating all at once. It promotes hope and gives you the spiritual strength to live to fight another day, despite your troubles. Now, I didn't give you the end of the Pandora story earlier. Despite Pandora's box seemingly being emptied with no reprieve, some versions of the story mention Pandora heard something still rustling around in the box. When she opened it again, out came hope. Symbolically redemptive compensation for her actions. Hope is both joy itself as well as a result of joy. Not all was lost. Bless those Greeks for their adherence to the concept of moderation in all things. The title of this sermon is really a quote from former First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson. That's why it has the quote marks around it. But you notice it had ellipses after it too. The full quote is, "Where flowers bloom, so does hope." Remember I mentioned using your freedom to have joy and hope may be easier said than done? Well, Lady Bird gives us something easy. Go outside to the flowers. Smell the roses. Of course, it doesn't have to be cultivated roses or other garden beauties or gorgeously perfect hothouse flowers. No, as Dolly Parton explains, wildflowers don't care where they grow. They're all over the lawn out there. When I came in today, we've got wildflowers all over. So look down at your feet. Are there tiny little blue flowers in the cracks of cement? Are there sturdy Indian paintbrush or purple thistle or pink primroses randomly scattered around in fields? Are there bright fuzzy dandelions in grass? Hey, even in the winter you can go inside a grocery store or any gas station or pharmacy and still find live cut flowers to brighten your day. You don't even have to buy them, just look at them. Use your freedom to have joy and hope daily. We'll be doing that all together shortly with our flower communion. But first, let's hear today's anthem, Wildflowers, with Kel, Velvet, Maya, and Jamie.
Hills were alive with wildflowers and I, and wilder than they. For at least I could run. They just died in the sun, and I refused to just wither in place. Just a wild mountain rose needing freedom to grow, so I ran fearing not where I'd go. When a flower grows wild, it can always survive. Wildflowers don't care where they grow. And the flowers I knew in the fields where I grew were content being lost in the crowd. They were coming close. I had no room for growth, and I wanted so much to branch out. So I uprooted myself from my home ground and left. Took my dreams and I took to the road. When a flower grows wild, it can always survive. Wildflowers don't care where they grow. I grew up fast and wild, and I never felt right in a garden so different from me. I just never belonged. I just longed to be gone. So the garden one day set me free. I hitched a ride with the wind, and since he was my friend, I just let him decide where we go. When a flower grows wild, it can always survive. Wildflowers don't care where they grow. Just a wild rambling rose seeking mysteries untold. No regret for the path that I chose. When a flower grows wild, it can always survive. Wildflowers don't
Thank you, everyone. That was beautiful. And now we come to the culmination of today's service, the flower communion itself. It's where we're going to exchange flowers with one another, just like in Chapek's time. If the ushers would now come forward and start distributing the pitchers of flowers. Please take any flower you like, but as Norbert asked, pick a flower different from the one you originally put in the pitcher. As a side comment, let me add that the word communion in our context should not be at all confused with the Christian Eucharist service or ritual. The word's Latin root refers to sharing in common, fellowship, or mutual participation. But if it makes you happy, think flower ceremony, or as Norbert Chapek liked, flower celebration. As you choose your new flower, remember that it is both literally and figuratively what it is, literally and figuratively. It is a living object full of beauty for the senses, making you happy because it touches almost all of your senses. You don't need to eat them, though. And if it talks to you, that's okay. You can talk back. The color is fascinating. The fragrance, if any, is delightful. Touch it to feel the texture of its petals, its leaves, its stem. Notice how intricately it is formed. Remember, too, that the flower represents someone else in this church, someone in our community that is different from you, perhaps in many ways, but the same through generosity with love and walking a spiritual path to truth. That person gave you the flower to bring you joy and hope without asking for anything in return. Has their flowers. So Norbert used the following words to consecrate the flowers that we gathered here. He said, "Infinite Spirit of life, we ask your blessing on these messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us of the value of friendship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of life's most precious gifts. as each of these flowers is unique in color and form, and therefore provides beauty and benefit to the world in its own way, the flower way, so too may we realize our unique characteristics are valuable and appreciated by all who know us.
We will now have our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 76, in the gray hymnal, For Flowers That Bloom About Our Feet. The words of this song are attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson by some people.
For flowers that bloom about our feet, for tender grass so fresh and sweet, for song of bird and hum of bee, for all things fair we hear or see. Giver of all, we thank thee. For blue of stream and blue of sky, for pleasant shade of branches high, for fragrant air and cooling breeze, for beauty of the blooming trees. Giver of all, we thank thee. For this new morning with its light, for rest and shelter of the night, for health and food, for love and friends, for everything thy goodness sends. Giver of all, we thank thee.
Let us close today's service with words from John O'Donohue. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. Go now in peace, go now in friendship and love. Go reminded that joy and hope are yours forever, your freedom, and that flowers can help you find them. In fact, when you leave Horizon today, just look around. The flowers are all out there to give you joy. Amen, and blessed be. Go eat. Thank you for listening. And by the way, there's lots of flowers left. When you leave here, I don't want to see another single flower. They all need to go home with somebody. Take bunches. Enjoy.